My family kicked me out from Thanksgiving after I funded them for years, when they came begging, and I gave them a lesson they won't forget. I'm a 29-year-old male, working in software analysis. It's nothing fancy, but it pays the bills and lets me live on my own in a small apartment just outside of town. I've been out of the house since I was 21 and never really looked back. I've always been the guy who handled his stuff quietly, didn't ask for handouts, didn't need rescuing. Meanwhile, my younger sister Vanessa, a 26-year-old female, has basically been living like a queen at home. She doesn't work a real job, says she's an artist, but the closest she's gotten to selling anything was when Mom bought one of her abstract pieces and hung it up in the dining room like it belonged in a museum. Yeah, okay. So, anyway, Thanksgiving rolls around. I decide to make sweet potato casserole because my mom always says it's her favorite. I drove 35 minutes across town to my parents' house. I figured it would be the usual group, me, my parents, Vanessa, maybe a couple of cousins or my aunt if she wasn't traveling. Nothing crazy. I pull into the driveway and notice a ton of cars, more than usual. There's clearly a full house. I figured maybe they invited extra folks this year or something. Still, I was in a good mood, the food smelled amazing, and I was actually kind of excited to be there, which, looking back now, feels pretty dumb. I walk up to the porch, casserole in hand, and knock. I wait a few seconds, then knock again. The lights are on. I can hear music and laughter inside. Everything feels normal. Then the door opens, and my dad's standing there. Now, my dad's not the warmest guy on a good day, but this look he gave me, pure confusion, like he had no clue what I was doing there. Before I can say anything, he goes, "What are you doing here?" I thought he was joking at first, so I kind of smiled and held up the casserole like, Thanksgiving. He didn't laugh. He just looked uncomfortable, then rubbed the back of his neck and said, "I thought we told you it would just be a small gathering this year." I blinked. "What do you mean?" He mumbled something under his breath, something like thought this was handled, then said he'd go get Mom. He didn't even invite me in, just turned around and left me standing there on the porch. I shifted my weight a little, the foil on the casserole tray crinkling in my hands. It was still warm but cooling fast. I stared at the front door, like maybe someone else would come open it instead and say, "Sorry, that was a mistake. Come on in." Instead, Mom came to the door. She opened it just wide enough for her body to block the inside view. I could still hear the clinking of silverware and someone laughing in the background. She gave me this tight, polite smile, the kind you give when someone knocks and you know you're not buying whatever they're selling. I didn't even get a hi or a happy Thanksgiving. She just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Quentin. We don't have more seats. Maybe next year." Okay, I blinked, thought maybe I misheard her. "What?" She repeated it slower, almost like she thought I was slow. "We don't have more seats." I looked past her shoulder. "You didn't think I was coming?" "We assumed you had plans," she said, like it made sense. "You usually keep to yourself." "What are you talking about? I texted you this morning." She blinked, like that message had been erased from her brain. "Right, well, I didn't think you'd actually show." I looked past her into the house. People were sitting at the table, laughing, plates full. There were definitely enough seats for more people. Hell, I saw a kid sitting on a booster seat at the end, and I'm not invited? The same kid who's been covering half their bills for 3 years? I couldn't speak. I didn't even know what to say. My mouth opened and closed a few times, but nothing came out. Finally, I just gave a nod more to myself than them and walked back to my car. I didn't drop the casserole, I didn't slam any doors. I just got in, set the dish on the passenger seat, and sat there for a few minutes, like I needed my brain to reboot. On the drive home, I kept thinking maybe I misunderstood something, maybe there was some miscommunication, maybe this wasn't as messed up as it felt. But nah, that was wishful thinking. It was exactly what it looked like. They had a full Thanksgiving dinner, invited everyone but me, and when I showed up, they acted like I was the guy who got the wrong address. I got home, reheated the casserole, and ate it alone on the couch. And let me tell you, it didn't taste like victory. It tasted like being replaced. The next morning was weird. Not sad, weird, just off. I woke up later than usual, didn't really feel like doing anything. My phone had no missed calls, no texts, not a single "hey, sorry about yesterday," or even one of those fake "hope you're doing okay" messages. Total silence, which made it worse in a way, like I wasn't even worth pretending to care about. I didn't plan on talking to anyone that day, but my cousin Natalie surprised me. She knocked around noon with a bag of leftovers and this look on her face, like she already knew what happened. Nat's the kind of cousin who doesn't sugarcoat anything. She'll call out a waiter for giving her the wrong side dish and won't blink. So when she sat down and asked, "What the hell did they pull on you?" I knew she'd heard something. I told her everything, didn't even need to exaggerate, just laid it out. Natalie shook her head the whole time and kept muttering, "Unreal," like she was trying not to explode. Then she said something that stuck with me. She goes, "They knew exactly what they were doing. That wasn't an accident, Q. That was a choice. And honestly, yeah, it hit me harder hearing it from her because deep down I already knew that. I wanted to believe it was some mix-up, like maybe they assumed I was going out of town or something, but no. They straight up didn't want me there, and they didn't even have the decency to say it in advance. They just let me drive over, knock on their door, and stand there like an idiot. Natalie also told me Vanessa had been going around saying things like, "Quennen's always so distant, and he probably wouldn't even show up," which is wild considering I was the one who used to set reminders to please reply to family stuff, brought side dishes without being asked, and texted every birthday like clockwork. Meanwhile, Vanessa can't be bothered to reply to a group message unless it's about her or includes emojis. Everything about Vanessa has always been treated like it's made of glass. When she failed 2 college classes, Mom said the professors didn't nurture her properly. When she rear-ended someone last year, Dad blamed the sunlight. She gets babied for stuff I would have been grounded for. Meanwhile, I'm the one who's been financially keeping things running for a while now. I've helped with utility bills. I've Venmo'd money for groceries. I even co-signed on a small loan so my parents could consolidate some debt. Never once made a big deal about it. I just figured that's what family does, right? Now I'm seeing it a little clearer. I wasn't family. I was support. I was the guy they called when the car broke down or the fridge stopped working. Vanessa was the heart of the house, and I was the safety net they didn't bother to thank. Natalie even said that at Thanksgiving she overheard Mom say, "We wanted to keep things peaceful this year." Peaceful, like I'm the chaos, like my presence would have somehow ruined dinner. I don't yell, I don't argue. The worst thing I do is ask questions when stuff doesn't make sense. But sure, blame me. That day I just kind of sat in silence, not even in a dramatic way, just quiet. I didn't listen to music, didn't watch TV. I just sat there, looking at the cold casserole in the fridge that no one ate but me. It's funny how fast things start making sense when you stop trying to give people the benefit of the doubt. I started thinking about all the little moments I brushed off before. Like last Thanksgiving, I paid for most of the dinner, didn't even think twice. Ordered a big smoked turkey, bought the side dishes, even brought extra Tupperware so Mom wouldn't have to wash as many dishes. Then, when it came time for the family photo, they told me to take it, not be in it. Take it. Vanessa got center spot, everyone gathered around her like she was the star of the show. I laughed it off back then, but looking at it now, yeah, that was a moment. There was also that time Dad needed a new water heater, and I covered part of it. He said, "We'll pay you back." But that never happened. Didn't bother me much until I found out they got Vanessa a new iPad a month later to help her with digital art. She posted a selfie with it, like it was some prize from the heavens. My name didn't come up once. I don't think they hate me, that's not what this is. I think they just don't think about me unless there's a reason to. I'm background noise, useful but optional. Vanessa is the star, and I'm the guy who shows up with the casserole and gets told to come back next year. I didn't reach out after that, didn't text them, didn't call. I figured if they had something to say, they'd say it, but I wasn't going to chase them. Not this time. And honestly, that silence, it was loud. Not hearing from them said everything I needed to know. It wasn't a misunderstanding, it wasn't a mistake. It was them showing me where I stand. And now that I saw it clearly, I wasn't sure I wanted to go back. About a week passed after the Thanksgiving incident, and the radio silence from my parents continued. No texts, no calls, not even one of those awkward group chat, hope everyone had a great holiday messages that parents love to send with 10 turkey emojis. I figured maybe they were feeling guilty or just avoiding the whole thing until it blew over. I wasn't in the mood to be the first one to reach out, so I just kept to myself and stayed quiet. I wasn't really stewing on it at that point. I'd kind of accepted it for what it was. Then, one afternoon, there was a knock on my door. I checked the peephole and nearly rolled my eyes into next week. It was my mom, no warning, no "Hey, can I stop by?" Just standing there like she hadn't excluded me from Thanksgiving dinner, like I was the weird neighbor kid. I opened the door, mostly out of curiosity, and stepped aside. She walked in with that same fake calm she always used when she wanted something. You know, the one super polite, a little too smiley, overly casual, like she was trying to act normal but overselling it. She sat down on my couch like it was still her house and gave me the fakest "How are you, sweetheart?" I've ever heard. I didn't even answer, I just sat across from her and waited. After some forced small talk. The weather's been strange lately, hasn't it? She got to the point. "So, about the $900, she said, like she was asking about a package that got delayed. For context, I've been giving my parents $900 a month for the past few years. It started when Dad had a health scare and missed a couple of months of work. They were struggling with bills, and I stepped in without even being asked, just wired the money and told them not to worry. I figured it was temporary, but somehow just until we get back on our feet turned into me paying their rent, helping with car payments, and covering surprise emergency expenses that always seemed to show up at the most random times. They didn't ask every month, but it was always implied. It got to the point where if I skipped a month, my mom would send me passive-aggressive texts about how tight things are and how some of us don't have the luxury of a steady income, as if I hadn't been working 50-plus hours a week just to stay ahead. I stared at her. What about it? She tilted her head, like she didn't understand my question. You didn't send it this month. No joke. She said it like I'd forgotten to take out the trash or something. Not like I'd stopped sending almost $1,000 to two people who literally shut a door in my face the week before. I sat there pretty calm, honestly, and just said, yeah, I know. She blinked at me, like that wasn't a valid answer. Well, why not? I raised my eyebrows. Because I don't have to anymore. That's when the smile cracked. Her face dropped for a second, then she tried to recover, but the energy shifted completely. Quentin, this isn't something you can just stop doing. We rely on that money. Your father and I have bills. You know how tight things have been. I leaned back in my chair. Yeah, I do. I also know how tight it was for me last week when I stood on your porch with a casserole and you both pretended I didn't exist. She didn't answer right away, just kind of froze, then let out this breath, like I was being overdramatic. That wasn't personal. We just had limited space. You had folding chairs stacked in the garage, I said. I counted 3 through the window. She didn't deny it, she just looked annoyed that I'd noticed. Then she switched tactics. Quentin, family helps each other. You're in a position to give. We're your parents. It's your responsibility. That word, responsibility, it lit something in me. I've never had a problem helping my family, but the way she said it, like I owed them, like I was just supposed to keep handing them money without a word, without question, that was different. That wasn't love, that was a transaction. And apparently, I was late on my payment. So, I said it again, slower this time. I don't have to do it anymore, and I don't want to. She stood up, suddenly flustered. I can't believe this. After everything we've done for you, I cut her off. Everything you've done for me? Mom, I moved out at 21. I've been paying my own bills since college. You haven't supported me in years. Meanwhile, I've sent you thousands of dollars to cover everything from your mortgage to Dad's car insurance. She didn't argue with that, couldn't, because it was true. Then she tried guilt. Your father's going to be so upset. I shrugged. That's not my fault. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me anymore, then said, We're not done talking about this, and stormed out of the apartment. And just when I thought that was the end of it, 2 hours later, I hear a knock again. This time, it's not just her. It's her, my dad, and Vanessa, all 3 of them lined up like they're about to conduct a job interview. Dad's got his serious face on, arms crossed like he's ready to lecture. Vanessa's scrolling on her phone, like she's being forced to sit through a community college orientation. Before I can even say anything, my dad steps forward and says, We need to understand why you're acting like this. What's going on with you? I actually laughed. You shut the door in my face last week, and now you're confused about why I don't want to keep giving you money? Vanessa didn't even look up. She just mumbled, This is so extra. That set me off. Extra? I've been paying for all of you to play house while I bust my ass every day, and I'm the one being extra? Mom jumped in, trying to calm things down. Quentin, we love you. We just think you're making a rash decision. Dad added, You're part of this family, and family doesn't walk away. I said no, family doesn't shut each other out, treat them like they don't matter, and then come knocking when the money stops. They tried to talk over me, but I'd had enough. I pointed to the door. You made it clear last week I wasn't part of the group, so go ask whoever got my seat at Thanksgiving to chip in $900. Nobody moved, so I walked over and opened the door. Leave, I said. Now. They didn't move, just stood there blinking, like the words didn't compute. My mom was the first to break the silence. Quentin, don't be ridiculous, she said, forcing a laugh, like this was just a minor misunderstanding. You can't seriously mean that. I do, I said, stepping back just enough to keep my hand on the doorknob. You can't do this to us, she said, her voice rising. Watch me. Then I shut the door and didn't look behind. 2 days later, I'm working from home, actually making progress for once, and I start hearing this weird thud sound from outside. At first, I thought maybe it was the neighbor's kid bouncing a basketball or something, but it kept happening, random thumps, like something soft hitting metal. I stood up, looked out my window, and I genuinely had to squint because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My parents, my sister, in my parking lot, throwing eggs at my car. Real eggs, full cartons, splatting against the hood, the windshield, the driver's side door. Vanessa even launched one underhand, like it was a game at a carnival booth. She was laughing. My dad wasn't even saying anything. He was just silently hurling them, like he was back in Little League. And my mom, she was yelling loud stuff like, maybe now you'll remember who your family is, and this is what happens when you turn your back on the people who raised you. I stood there, completely stunned, like this couldn't be real. These were people in their 50s and a grown woman acting like teenagers in a bad high school movie. I didn't even rush outside. I just pulled out my phone and hit record. No yelling, no confrontation, just steady video footage of 3 people I'm biologically related to committing what has to be the most childish act I've ever seen. After about 5 minutes of this mess, one of my neighbors, bless him, stepped outside and shouted, "Hey, I'm calling the police if y'all don't leave." That got their attention. My mom yelled something back about minding his business, but they got in their car and drove off. Like they hadn't just egged their own son's vehicle in broad daylight. Once they were gone, I walked outside to check the damage. The car looked like it had been in a bakery brawl. Egg dripping down the side, bits of shell stuck to the windshield wipers. The smell was already turning. It wasn't just annoying, it was gross, the kind of thing that ruins your mood even more when you have to clean it up yourself. But I didn't clean it, not right away. I had other plans. I went back inside, downloaded the footage, made a couple of copies, and then called the non-emergency police line. I explained everything, gave them my statement, and emailed them the video. The officer on the phone was professional, but I could tell from his tone that he thought it was ridiculous too. "You said this was your parents?" "Yup," I said. I sure did. I also called my insurance, just in case the paint got messed up from the eggs sitting too long. Then I called a detail shop and scheduled a full clean for the next morning. Cost me a decent chunk, but it was worth it. I kept the receipt. You'll see why later. That night, I got the texts. First from my mom, "What is wrong with you?" We were expressing our frustration, not trying to hurt you. "You're really going to go cry to the police over this?" Then Vanessa followed up with a classic, "You're such a drama queen. Nobody even scratched your stupid car." I didn't respond. I just forwarded the text to the same officer who took my report. The next day, while my car was getting detailed, I got a call from a private number. I answered, and surprise, it was my dad. He didn't waste time on small talk. He went straight to, "You need to drop this nonsense. You're taking things too far." I said, "You threw eggs at my car." He responded, "And you stopped paying us, like we're strangers." That was disrespectful. I actually laughed. "You literally told me I wasn't welcome in the house. Which is it? Am I family or not?" He started getting loud, accusing me of being spiteful, cold, and turning my back on people who raised me. I told him, "Raising your kid doesn't come with a lifetime subscription to their bank account, and maybe you should have thought twice before treating me like a burden with a checkbook." Then came the final gem. He goes, "This is going to split the whole family apart." And I said, "You already did that the second you pretended I didn't exist." Then I hung up. I didn't hear from them again that day, but I knew it wasn't over. People like that don't back down, they regroup, then they come back louder. And sure enough, the next morning, I got an email from their lawyer. Apparently, they'd received notice of a complaint and wanted to resolve this matter informally, which basically meant, "Please don't press charges, our pride can't take it." So, I wrote back. Calm, short, and factual. I sent the bill for the car detailing, added an invoice for the ruined paint that the shop said might need touch-up work, and attached a copy of the footage again, just for fun. I told them I wasn't dropping anything until I was reimbursed in full. That was the last I heard for about a week. Then, like magic, a check showed up in my mailbox. No note, no apology, just a payment and a signature. I cashed it, and I smiled because at that point, it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about making sure they knew, loud and clear, I'm not the guy you can treat like garbage and still expect to fund your lives. They drew the line at Thanksgiving. I drew mine right after the eggs hit my windshield. I figured paying for the damage might act as the weird wake-up call they clearly needed, like, "Hey, you can't treat your adult kid like trash, vandalize his stuff, and then act surprised when there are consequences." But I forgot who I was dealing with. People like my parents and Vanessa don't really learn from anything. They just rewrite the story in their heads and keep going like they're the victims. The following week, I started noticing something new. I wasn't just being ignored anymore, now I was the villain. It started with a group text I'd been a part of forever. The extended family one, you know the type, birthdays, holiday planning, occasional look at this funny meme moments. I hadn't said a word in it since before Thanksgiving, but suddenly, it lit up with messages from Vanessa. She sent some vague stuff like, "It's just sad when family stops acting like family, and money really does change people." She didn't tag me directly, but come on, it was obvious. A few aunts chimed in with those half-sympathetic, half-passive-aggressive responses like, "I hope everyone finds peace soon, and family is complicated, but we have to keep trying." I didn't respond. Didn't even open the thread after that. Then I started getting individual texts from cousins, some I hadn't talked to in months. A few were genuinely confused and just wanted to know what happened. I gave them the short version, got uninvited from Thanksgiving, stopped sending money, got egged. That usually shut them up pretty quick. Others came in swinging, like my cousin Blake, who texted me, "Dude, you really suing your parents over some eggs? Chill." To which I replied, "Tell them to chill next time they're at the grocery store loading up on ammo." But my personal favorite? Vanessa. She texted me a single message, a crying emoji. Not even words, just the emoji, like that was supposed to mean something, like I'd read that and go, oh no, she's sad. Time to Venmo the rent again. I didn't respond. At this point, silence was doing all the talking I needed, and that silence, it drove them insane. You could tell they were waiting for me to pop off or lose it so they could be like, see, he's the problem. But I wasn't playing that game anymore. The messages kept coming. My mom tried calling a few times, left voicemails that started nice and ended snappy. One went, "Hi sweetie, just wondering if you'd reconsider," and ended with, "I hope you realize what this is doing to your father's health." Vanessa's was just her usual sarcasm masked as deep thoughts. We all make mistakes, but it takes a bigger person to forgive. Guess you're not there yet. Right, because I'm the one who needs forgiving after getting pelted with eggs like a prank show reject. Then came the classic guilt maneuver. My dad emailed me, not called, emailed, this long rambling thing about how the stress from all of this had been affecting him physically, that his sleep was off, his appetite was gone, and that my actions were creating a rift that might never heal. He also mentioned, word for word, at some point, you'll regret pushing your family away. Cool. The man who stood behind my mom while she told me I wasn't invited to dinner is now concerned about rifts. Still, I said nothing. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of thinking I was still stuck in it with them. I was out. I was doing my laundry in peace, working without interruption, cooking real meals instead of stress snacking at midnight. I was going for walks again. Little stuff that sounds boring but felt like I finally had mental breathing room. And the longer I stayed quiet, the louder they got. They started involving other people. My aunt on my dad's side randomly sent me a voice message about how family is forever and that money isn't worth cutting ties over. Another cousin DM'd me on Instagram to say, don't let pride ruin everything. I hadn't posted anything about what happened, so it was clear the family gossip machine was running full speed, and they were only getting my parents' side of it, probably a story where I turned into some greedy, ungrateful kid who stopped paying support out of nowhere. It was kind of amazing to watch. No one wanted to talk about the part where they kicked me off the guest list. No one asked if I was okay. It was all about them, their stress, their disappointment, their image. I was just the villain in the group chat now, the ungrateful son who went rogue. I started muting people, not blocking, just muting. It was better than engaging. I wasn't going to explain myself to people who weren't there and didn't bother asking what really happened. And even if they had, I wouldn't have wasted the breath because here's the thing, I'm not ashamed of what I did, not one bit. I stopped paying people who treated me like a walking bank account and acted shocked when the ATM started charging interest. And honestly, it was kind of freeing. Every time I saw a new message pop up that I didn't feel the need to answer, that was a small win. Every missed call I ignored without guilt. Victory. I didn't owe them my energy anymore, not after everything. They thought the eggs would be the end of it, that I'd come crawling back once the shock wore off. What they didn't realize is that I wasn't angry. I was done. And there's a big difference between the two. Angry people come back to argue. Done people walk away and don't look back. It's been about 5 months since everything went down, and life, honestly, it's been peaceful, like stupidly peaceful. I didn't realize how loud everything used to be until it all stopped. The weight of being the default fixer in the family is gone, just gone. It's been nice, uneventful in the best possible way. So, imagine my surprise when I heard a knock at the door last week. Not a quick one, not like the Amazon guy or a neighbor with a question. This was the kind of knock that lets you know someone's standing out there, waiting for a response, like they're not going anywhere until the door opens. I got up from the couch, expecting I don't even know what. Certainly not what I found. I opened the door, and there they were. My mom, my dad, and Vanessa, standing on my porch with suitcases. Real suitcases, like full-on rolling luggage. My mom was holding this beat-up tote bag and had that strange smile she gets when she's trying to act like she's not desperate. Dad looked exhausted. Dark circles, unshaven, the works. And Vanessa. Hoodie, messy bun, chewing gum. Like we just interrupted her spa day instead of her dragging a suitcase up to my door. Quentin, my mom started, and I already knew this was about to be something. We've had a rough few weeks, she said, her voice dropping into that dramatic tone she used to use whenever the cable bill was late. There's been some issues with the house and rent. Your father's hours got cut. Vanessa's job situation is, well, still... She trailed off. Anyway, we need a place to stay just for a little while. She said it like it was the most natural thing in the world, like after 5 months of total silence, after vandalizing my car, after treating me like a stranger at Thanksgiving, now they expected me to offer them a room and a warm welcome. I looked at them, at the actual luggage they had the nerve to bring, and the only thing I could think about was that cold November day on their porch, being told, "We don't have more seats. Maybe next year." Except this time, I was the one on the inside, and they were the ones left in the cold. My dad stepped forward. "We just need a few weeks, just until we figure things out. We can sleep on the couch if we have to." Vanessa finally looked up and mumbled, "Yeah, like 2 weeks max." 2 weeks, from the girl who hasn't held a job longer than a pop-up sale. My hands were on the door. I didn't yell, I didn't make a speech. I just said, "Yeah, no." Mom blinked, confused. "What? You're not staying here." My dad furrowed his brow. "Come on, Quentin, we're family." That line again, family, only used when it benefits them, never when it means actually showing up for someone else. I leaned slightly into the doorway. Funny, because when I showed up 5 months ago, I was told there weren't enough chairs. Remember that? They didn't answer. Vanessa sighed and muttered, "Are you really still mad about that?" I laughed. Not loud, not fake, just an honest laugh that came from somewhere deep in my chest. "No, Vanessa, I'm not mad. I'm just done." Mom looked like she was about to cry. "Quentin, please. We have nowhere else to go." I shrugged. "That sounds like something to figure out, but not here." "Dad tried again, just a few nights I don't have room," I said. "We'll sleep on the floor." I nodded. "Yeah, I did that metaphorically for years while you treated me like an outsider. Now I've upgraded to sleeping in peace." They stood there, just stood there. No plan B, no backup idea, just blind hope that I'd fold, like always. That I'd say, "Of course, come on in, make yourselves at home." They genuinely believed showing up with a couple of bags would erase everything. The entitlement didn't even feel intentional anymore. It was just ingrained, like they truly couldn't imagine a version of reality where I'd say no. I gave them one last look, no anger, no pity, just clarity. Then I said, "I hope you figure things out." And I shut the door. Didn't slam it, didn't lock it dramatically, just closed it quietly the way they closed theirs on me. I watched through the peephole for a second. They stood there for a minute, not moving, probably waiting for the door to open again. When it didn't, they turned and walked back to the curb, dragging their bags behind them. Vanessa was already back on her phone. I went back to the couch, picked up where I left off in my book. The house was quiet again. Later that night, I got a text from an unknown number. It was probably Vanessa. All it said was, "You'll regret this." I didn't reply. I just deleted it, then set my phone down, looked around my little apartment, and exhaled. For the first time in years, the door that used to only swing one way finally closed.